Welcome back. Now, England will face World Cup co-host Mexico at the Azteca Stadium on Sunday as they look to book their place in the quarter-finals. Marcus Rashford spoke to the media before England travelled to Mexico City on Friday. Here's what he had to say.
Kickoff was moved from 6 p.m. to noon. Considering the altitude and the weather, do you see that as a disadvantage for England?
No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's a game of football at the end of the day, and it might be a small adjustment that we need to make, but in the end, it doesn't change our outlook on the game and what we're trying to do. You know, whatever happens, however the game plays out, we're going to try to come out on top.
Marcus, you've played in some of the biggest matches, some of the most iconic stadiums in world football, but the Azteca Stadium in Mexico, it's exciting for everybody, I think, going involved there. What are you expecting?
That's a fun thing. We don't fully know what to expect. We just know what we're capable of, and you know, with what we've got in the squad, if problems get thrown at us, we're going to find a way to deal with them, and that's pretty much the mentality of all of us, the players and staff included. We have full belief in. We don't expect the game to go exactly how we planned, but no game does. So it's nothing new to us. So yeah, we're looking to soak in everything about this fixture. Like you touched on there, the stadium's amazing. You know, passionate fans from both sides. So yeah, hopefully it's a good game of football and we come out on top.
Marcus. I mean, there's a lot of conversation about goalkeepers being overprotected. I mean, situations where people have obviously on social media gone berserk about it. What is your opinion on that?
On goalkeepers?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think, you know, the rule books, the rule book, and the referees just try and do the best job they can. To be honest, I try and stay out of these conversations because I get too emotionally engaged in them, and probably affects me on the pitch. So yeah, I just let the referees try to do the job the best way they can, and we focus on the game.
Marcus, a lot's been made of the altitude, home advantage. Are we making too much of it, or do you as players, do you even think about that, or are you worried about playing at altitude?
Yeah, but you make too much of everything. No, listen, in the end, it's a game of football. You know, we've all been playing football since we was kids, and we've played in different environments, different atmospheres. Some easier than others, some terrible to play in and disgusting, but you know, it's up to us to try and find a way to come out on top, and that's what the focus is, you know. And sometimes you need the player next to you and the player next to him, but listen, it's all the same. We have to work together, work as a unit, and try to bring, you know, as close to our best as we can, and we'll be fine.
Marcus, it's perceived as really close between you and Anthony Gordon for that place on the left. Do you think that brings the best out of both of you, that there is so much pressure from the other one to try and start each game?
I don't think it's a pressure. I think it's just the normal characteristics of a top level team. You know, everyone's pushing to play. Everyone wants to be on the pitch as long as they can, and I think that type of atmosphere and environment is always positive for every player. So I know there's a lot of talk about it and stuff like that, but me personally, I don't emphasise a me and him situation. I think it's being involved in a top team. I think that's always the situation. So yeah, it's the same for all of us. We all want to be on the pitch and try to help the team. And if it's not your moment, when it is your moment, you have to try to do your best. So yeah.
Marcus, how do you address a real big challenge against a defense that is unbeatable in this great match? What do you think about Cesar Montes? What do you think about Johan Vázquez and this great defense?
They've obviously defended well, but you know, no defence is unbeatable, and it's up to us to find a way. It's another challenge, and it's almost as if people expect you not to come across challenges to win a World Cup. It's just unrealistic. We're going to play against some top players, some top teams, some top defensive units, top forwards. It's just problems that we're going to have to try and deal with, and you know, I'm confident in the team. I think the team's confident in themselves. And yeah, we just give 100% on the pitch, and like I said before, try to come out on top.
Marcus, you started your career very young, and in Mexico there's a young Gilberto Mora. He has only 18. What's your advice for him? And maybe he can have a career like yours, and maybe one in the top, playing in the top leagues in Europe.
No, I think for him, first and foremost, he has to enjoy his football. And this is the best stage in the world, so for him to be here at that age is incredible. So no, he just has to continue and, you know, work hard and enjoy.
Marcus, can I ask you about Harry Kane? We talk about him so much, and the impact he had in that game the other day, the impact he's had on English football is huge. How much does he give you a boost around the squad right now, and especially with you know, providing the bullets for him to score? That's your job. You know, how important is he? Do we not give him enough credit?
Yeah, I think he always deserves credit. You know, he's one of the match winners in the team, and you know, like you said, he's showed up for us on many occasions. I think for us in the squad, you know, it's more of a shock to us when he's not scoring goals. So, you know, we expect him to find a way to score, and like you said, we just have to support him as much as we can. And yeah, you know, if a chance comes his way, I expect him to take it. So, you know, the team have a lot of confidence in him, and you know, the confidence comes from him having that in himself. So yeah, he's had an incredible year. So it's just about letting him continue to do that, and yeah, try to support him as much as we can.
Well done, guys.
Yeah, really good to hear from Rashford there at length. So England could face huge disruption with the kickoff time potentially moving to an earlier time on Sunday against Mexico. Well, speaking to Sky News, Henry Winter believes that the England players will be able to deal with the sudden change in schedule ahead of the match.
Well, there's always a storm with England. It's not normally a meteorological one, so I'm actually at the England training ground. We just had a wonderful chat with Marcus Rashford and Morgan Rogers, and the Mexican journalists who were there. They were obviously getting indications of this from back home, and it spread. As you say, you know, there's been no confirmation yet. But what was interesting, what the Mexicans were saying, because we were asking sort of Morgan Rogers and Marcus Rashford sort of nice, innocent questions about will the ball move at altitude, and then the Mexican journalist said afterwards, he said, don't worry about the altitude. It's going to be the pollution at noon, which it will be in Mexico City at the Azteca for the kickoff, if confirmed. That will be more of an issue. But look, England have their sports scientists. They have their preparation. They won't have seen necessarily an eventuality like this, although one of their games was slightly delayed by a storm in the warm-up matches in Florida. But you know, this is England. England waited 60 years for to try and get closer to a trophy, and a few storms buffeting them on the way. Well, it's nothing they're not used to.
Psychologically, do you think this will have any impact on the squad? Because I suppose they'll know that if they're playing at 7 p.m. UK time, plenty more people will be in front of the telly.
I mean, these are elite athletes. They are cut off. Obviously, they'll have a look on social media. They've got their families. They'll be tuning into to you guys. But, you know, this is the pinnacle for them. They're going to the Azteca. I mean, even Morgan Rogers, when we were talking to him earlier, he's very aware of the hand of God in '86 and the goal of the century, the Maradona. So, yes, they are aware of it, but they should be excited by the possibility of playing there. I mean, there's always this element with England. You know, we have these sort of psychological pressure points, whether it's penalties, whether it's dentist chairs, whether it's the pressure of the nation. I mean, you see the celebrations here. They know that you know, they know the country is watching them, and for the best players, as we've seen with Harry Kane and Jude Bellingham, it's an absolute inspiration. The shirt, because of the work that Gareth Southgate has done, he's changed the culture, changed the mood, and obviously Thomas Tuchel is reaping the benefits of that. They are, you know, maybe there's a little bit of pressure, but they're focused. I mean, having spent time with them over the last sort of 4 or 5 weeks, they know. Look, you talk to someone like Declan Rice, he knows that this could be the year of his life with Arsenal and with England, and they don't want to let that slip. They will absolutely respect the Mexican opposition. They'll respect the fact that it's not going to feel like a home game, which all the other games out here have been. They've been like your scenes here at the stadium so far in the States. It's a Mexican home game, and they will take it. But they'll look around the dressing room and they'll look at the players they've got, and they should have a little bit of belief.
But look, first, we've got to get to this significant news this evening. FIFA is in discussions over moving the kickoff time of Mexico against England in the last 16 of the World Cup in the early hours of Monday morning. Our football correspondent Rob Dorset has the very latest from Kansas City.
The possibility of changes to kick-off times was always on the agenda as far as the English FA were concerned. It was something they were always planning contingencies for, and the England team have already experienced a lot of disruption to training and matches in the time they've been out here in the US. Bear in mind, this area of the Midwest and the area where they went for some acclimatisation training near Miami and West Palm Beach is prone to significant storms at this time of the year. And the England players told us there were a number of occasions where they their training had to be interrupted because of thunder in the area or torrential rain which flooded the training pitches. And in that final warm-up game against Costa Rica in Orlando, the kickoff was delayed by an hour for the sort of rain I've never seen in my life. Rain that came down and flooded the roads outside, flooded the pitch in the Orlando stadium, and with lightning in the area, the decision was taken that there was no way the players could be out there safely and that the spectators could be in the stadium safely. So this isn't new to the England players, but it is definitely disruptive. Logistically, it'll make changes to their plans, they'll have uncertainty there, and Thomas Tuchel may well have to change his training plans and preparations in the build-up to what is a really key game for England. If it wasn't difficult enough to play Mexico in Mexico City at altitude in the Azteca Stadium, it's more complicated and more difficult now. Of course, Tuchel and the England players will adapt, but you have to say it's a huge headache for them against what is a massive game.
Yeah, it really is. And as that news of the kickoff time possibly being changed, Rob Dorset and other journalists were speaking to Marcus Rashford and Morgan Rogers. Both England players insist that it won't disrupt their preparations if the match time is brought forward.
I wouldn't say an issue. I don't think it really affects us. I think we'll be ready regardless of the time. Earlier probably the better because you want to play it and get it. I think if we're enough about thinking about what's going to happen and you just want to play the game, it's always the way, the build-up and that. You always want to just play the game when they go. So probably if it's early, it'll probably help us of just getting that adrenaline out there and getting playing and getting going. So yeah, we're looking forward to whatever the time is and we'll be ready.
Guys.
Hey, Mark,
the
it's nice to see
kickoff was moved from 6 p.m. to noon. Considering the altitude and the weather, do you see that as a disadvantage for England?
No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's a game of football at the end of the day, and it might be a small adjustment that we need to make. But in the end, it doesn't change our outlook on the game and what we're trying to do. You know, whatever happens, however the game plays out, we're going to try to come out on top.
Well, there's not much time for FIFA to decide whether to actually move this game. Earlier, our chief correspondent, Kaveh Solokul, explained the factors involved in the decision.
Of course, FIFA has to be thinking about safety first, but it's also thinking about the worldwide global audience that will be watching this game. And logistically, there are so many moving parts. Not only do they have to liaise with the English FA, the Mexican FA, the authorities in Mexico City, you know, thinking about all the fans, as you've been talking about, who may be flying in late for the game. How could it affect them? How many fans potentially could miss the game if the kickoff time is moved? Would those fans be able to get refunds if they miss the game? These are all the kinds of issues that FIFA are thinking about at the moment. But it's very, very important to stress that in the rules for this tournament, it says that FIFA and only FIFA have the right to move kickoff times and also relocate teams, and that is at their sole discretion. If we go back to last summer and the Club World Cup, which was held in the US during June and July. Now, that tournament was the first expanded Club World Cup, and it was held at a lot of the stadiums and in a lot of the cities which are hosting World Cup games this summer. It was almost a dry run for this World Cup. And if you remember, there were 6 major weather delays in 63 games. The one I remember most clearly is the game between Chelsea and Benfica, which went on for 4.5 hours because there were so many weather delays. So I think what FIFA are doing at the moment is trying to learn from the experience that they had last summer.
And there are 2 problems. One, clearly, the predicted storm there on Sunday evening in Mexico. The other is this heat wave, real fierce heat on the east coast of the United States. Both of these problems could be solved with moving the 2 games on Sunday, moving the England-Mexico game much earlier, and then pushing Brazil and Norway in New York, New Jersey, just a little bit later. That way they don't clash, you avoid the storm, and it's a bit cooler for the game in New York. And that same heat wave also applies for the game between France and Paraguay. And I understand, this is only speculation, but I understand there is a possibility that that game, it's the second game, the last game of the night, so it wouldn't involve any clashes, that France and Paraguay could be pushed back a little bit later to avoid the worst of the heat. So what's unprecedented at the moment may not be unprecedented come Sunday.
Camp now. Thomas Tuchel and his squad will travel to Mexico City tonight to face the co-host Mexico in the last 16. We'll hear from Marcus Rashford in the next hour before they leave their base camp in Kansas City. Our football correspondent Rob Dorset can tell us more.
The England squad will train for a final time here in Kansas City before they make that flight to Mexico City and all the excitement and challenges that await them out there. This training session in Kansas City, though, is also the first full one they will have had since the round of 32 win over DR Congo, and so it'll be an important one for Thomas Tuchel, away from the cameras, nobody looking from the sidelines, as they begin that tactical preparation for what will be a very difficult game against Mexico for so many reasons. And whatever threat Mexico pose on the pitch, we know there are an awful lot of challenges for England off the pitch, above and beyond the altitude that they've got to deal with as well. Not least, just how hostile it's going to be at the Azteca Stadium. We've been told that actually the journey once you get to the stadium is pretty fraught. You have to travel all the way around the perimeter of the stadium on the team bus, presumably with Mexican fans berating you from outside, and indeed the walk from the team bus into the stadium and to the changing rooms is one of the longest that England will have out here at the World Cup. Again, a chance for Mexico's fans to really lay on the pressure. And we know, we've seen it in social media, what those Mexico supporters have been doing to try and disrupt the sleep and rest of opposing teams the night before. They did that in the Ecuador game as well, with fireworks, with car horns, with loud cheering. So look, this is going to be a cacophonous atmosphere for England to walk into, and that's just off the pitch. On the pitch, well, there will be better teams than Mexico that England face in this tournament if they continue on the journey towards the final. But we should point out that Mexico's best player probably is Julian Quinones, who plays on the left wing. England have got some problems at right back, haven't they? Both with Reece James and Jarrell Quansah probably not available for this game unless they can have a late burst of fitness. So does Declan Rice start there? Does Jed Spence start there? Who does Thomas Tuchel is the best man to deal with Quinones? That's a significant question. So a lot for Thomas Tuchel to ponder, both in this training session and when they fly to Mexico City later on. But before they do that, we will hear from a member of the England squad. One of the players will speak to us. It's going to be really interesting to hear what they're expecting, not just on the pitch, but of all those shenanigans off it as well.
Now, a hostile atmosphere won't be Tuchel's only concern. The Azteca is more than 2,000 metres above sea level, and the altitude is likely to affect the players' ability to perform. Global tourism and aviation advisor Anita Mandrata says the squad should have made the trip to Mexico City earlier to acclimatise to the conditions.
We're looking at about 2,500 meters above sea level compared to 330 if they've just come from Atlanta. And that means higher levels of fatigue, higher levels of dehydration, and it's just going to be quite tiring, which means people need to be really careful about that altitude, allowing 48 hours to be able to acclimatize, which means they need to be in Mexico City by now. That's really important to enjoy it. However, at the same time, they're also dropping 10 degrees. Atlanta, where they've just come from, is about 33 degrees Celsius. We're looking at Mexico City being about 23. So the good thing is that humidity is dropping, temperature is dropping, but oxygen levels are dropping about 25% as well. So just allow your body to acclimatize. But I'm quite confident that when it comes to match time, the adrenaline is going to be pumping. So there'll be some compensation for the lack of energy.
Now, England have, of course, played at the Azteca before. They were beaten by Argentina in the 1986 World Cup quarter-final. You may remember, someone called Maradona scored twice. Well, Terry Butcher played in that game and believes 48 hours will be nowhere near enough for the England squad to get used to the conditions.
We went to Mexico in '86, we were really well prepared. And we had 3 games in Monterrey that was not as high as Mexico City is. But we still acclimatized very well. But, you know, 2 days, 48 hours is no time.
What you find is you get short of breath very quickly, and your, let's say, stamina is tested to its full. So when you've got to go on a sprint, you've got to go on another sprint, which you do in football in general terms. But the addition to your condition is the heat mixed with the lightness of the air. and it was very, very difficult.
This is where the squad comes into effect. This is when hydration breaks come into effect for England and could work positively for them. So, we shouldn't be worried about it. You're going to feel tired. You're going to feel shattered. You can't get your breath, but you do battle through it. And, with all the substitutes that you can have nowadays, you're replacing half the team at the right time with the right people.
Sorry, Terry, but we're going to talk about those 2 goals that Maradona scored. Yeah, among the most iconic in World Cup history. The first, clear handball, somehow missed by the officials. The second was one of the great solo goals, as Maradona dribbled past several England players, including Terry Butcher, to score. Sorry, Terry.
Looking at that scene that you just had with me on the floor and Maradona running away after he'd beaten me twice, it's not a pleasant memory. It's a great place to play. It's one of the best places to play any football match. The pitch was awful on the night, and I'm sure the pitch is going to be absolutely brilliant. So England shouldn't be intimidated. They shouldn't be worried. But they haven't. Now there's no Maradona on the pitch this time, so hopefully we can get the right result.
I remember the conditions. I remember the importance of that game. It was the quarter-final. We were in the last 8, and we were very unfortunate on that day that the referee did not see the incident, which happened to end up being the hand of God moment, and that sort of led the way for us to be eliminated from the competition.
The only good thing is if a Mexican striker pops up and handles the ball into the back of the net, then you would just hope and pray that VAR would knock it off and it wouldn't stand. Where was it 40 years ago? But there's no point looking back.
Former England midfielder Trevor Stevens says that Thomas Tuchel's position could come under scrutiny if England don't go all the way to the final.
I just think, Thomas Tuchel, I admire him as a manager. He is, for me, the right man for the job. But the moments are now coming fast and furious that England need to prove themselves and at least match, if he doesn't at least match what Gareth Southgate achieved. There's going to be question marks over him and his future. I've got a great confidence in him that we're going to get a good performance. I fancy England in this particular game. I know the conditions are difficult, but I think we're growing into the tournament. There was a scare in the last game, but I think Thomas Tuchel will have the team ready to take on Mexico.